You're watching Masters in Trading Live with Jonathan Rose.
Hey everybody, it's Jonathan Rose. Welcome to Masters in Trading Live. Masters in Trading Live, I get on here every day the market's open, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, go over the market, share my thoughts, and once in a while, we'll even share our trade of the day. Gonna try a few things a little bit different today. I'm gonna keep up the chat in YouTube. So in the YouTube chat, I've already said good morning. Hopefully you guys are out there. You could say good morning back. I see Dale saying good morning. But we're going to be on YouTube. We're on live. So every day we're on live, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. We are in earnings season. When you're in earnings season, it's really important that every trade that you do, you need to value earnings. Okay? It's just math. Companies release earnings 4 times a year. So think about Apple. Think about Microsoft. These companies have been around since the 70s. They've been releasing earnings for 40 years. They've been releasing earnings 4 times a year for 40 years. Analysts have a pretty good idea of what to expect. They know what kind of surprises they could expect from these companies versus other companies that have been public for 6 months. Analysts don't really know how to value them. They don't know how to trust them. So there's going to be a lot more volatility in those names. Today, I'm going to show you how we value a stock's earnings into options. And we're going to do that by highlighting 3 of the biggest names. I'm going to go over Microsoft, I'm going to go over IBM, and I'm going to go over NVIDIA. All 3 of those major names have earnings coming up in the next 30 days or so. This is exactly how we value earnings every earnings season. It's rinse and repeat. We just do the same thing over and over because it works. I'm going to go over the slide deck. If you're on here, say hello. I'm going to be trying to integrate the chat a little bit more into what we're doing today. All right, I got you here on the screen again. As I mentioned, I'm going to say good morning again. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hopefully you guys are out there. Hopefully you guys can hear me and say hello over YouTube if you would. I need that back and forth. Somebody say hello. I'm just kidding. All right, let's get into it. Microsoft, big company, right? Microsoft's a big company that's going to be releasing earnings. Let's get my pen up here. Microsoft, its last earnings, okay? Previous earnings release. How much Microsoft likes to move. Previous. Okay? This is how Microsoft moves after each earnings release. This is the most that it moves. So for the options, hey, Chris, there he is. Laura, wow. This chat is really taking off now. You guys are funny. All right. So previous earnings, this is how much it moves. Okay? So think about it. This next earnings, how much will Microsoft move? 7%? 5%? Is it going to move 18% or probably not? Microsoft doesn't really move 18%. We have earnings October 30th. Okay? If earnings are October 30th, what's going to be really important now is which options do you look at? The 3rd Friday of every month is options expiration. So the 3rd Friday of October is going to be the 18th. The 3rd Friday in November is going to be the 15th. So Microsoft is in November expiration. Okay, you need to be in November if you're going to look for a Microsoft earnings trade. So let's go and let me look at Microsoft. There we go. Wade, what's up? Hey, I love that you guys are finding your way into the chat. Steve, good morning. How you doing? Rick, what's up, buddy? All right, so Microsoft, October 30th earnings, right? We know that October 30th earnings are outside October expiration, so we need to go to November. November. What is the expectation for movement in November? 425. That's pretty much 427. At the money, 425, or actually 427.50. Right here, we can look at the expectation of movement. If the expectation of movement was going to be 10%, that would be 42. Since it's not 42, 21 is 5. About 7% of movement. 27 is 7% of 427. Red Snapper, Sandra, what's up, guys? Okay, so look, this is 7%. So right now, Microsoft factoring in 7%. Does that seem pretty good? Yeah, it does, because look at the latest earnings. 2, 3, 2, 4, 5. So factoring in 7%. That makes sense. Microsoft is valued very, very well into earnings. Let's do that again. And now we're going to do the same exact thing with IBM. Did that make sense, guys, of why Microsoft is well valued into earnings? Because IBM, we're going to do the exact same exercise. And let me know if it's well valued or not well valued. IBM, if we look at its movement after its earnings releases, it looks like it goes higher after earnings release, sometimes goes lower. That's not a really big concern. 6%, 10%, 13, 5, 3, 3, 5. IBM is more volatile after earnings than Microsoft. Look at the movement. IBM is more volatile after earnings than Microsoft. When is IBM's earnings? IBM's earnings are on October 23rd. October 23rd, that's tomorrow. We already know that's going to be in November. IBM releases earnings tomorrow. We would need to be in the November expiration cycle. 1 day of movement. We're going to factor in, it might be, 7%, 8% of movement. Hey, Chris, that is an excellent question, my friend. Chris's question, is it better to be in the weeklies or the monthlies? I would stick with the monthlies because that's where there's going to be better liquidity. So same exercise. Let's look at IBM. IBM, you have your weeklies here. I prefer to be in the quarterlies, but actually for the weeklies, we can see exactly how much vol they're pricing in. 23% would be 10. This is about 5% for 3 days. 5% for 3 days, it's probably good, maybe a little cheap, but not that cheap. I would not touch for 3 days, but let's go and see how it's pricing in for the rest of November. 23%, what's that, 7 or 8%? That's still pretty cheap. IBM is kind of cheap going into earnings. IBM is kind of cheap going into earnings. So for a name like IBM, and we don't normally trade these big behemoths of a company, IBM is just ripping higher. I think IBM is ripping higher because the next big buzzword that we're going to hear in the market, it's not going to be AI. It's eventually going to be quantum. IBM is dominating in quantum right now. I'm actually very, very bullish IBM. There's not really a great place to buy IBM, but IBM is inexpensive going into its earnings announcement. Maybe there's a fun trade to do for those who don't really have a dog in the fight, but may just want to play on the upside of IBM. It's very expensive. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's too expensive. Playing for a big jump. I don't like that. Options are inexpensive, but it's a $230 stock. So unless somebody's got an axe to grind, wants to be long IBM, I believe IBM will go up, continue to rally. It's actually inexpensive, the options going into earnings, but it's quite an investment because it's an expensive stock. So that's my feedback on IBM. Let me just check the question, see if that created any questions. Nathan, what's up, buddy? All right, I think we're pretty good on there. Let's move on. So again, the first one, Microsoft, kind of price fair going into earnings. IBM, I'd say it's a little bit cheap going into earnings. The last one. You guys have heard of this guy, huh? NVIDIA, slowly taking over the world in the last couple of years. NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA, obviously, it's a newer company. It used to move quite a bit more. It still gets quite a bit of movement after its earnings. NVIDIA, when it does pull back, it doesn't pull back very much. But overall, there's still a lot of uncertainty of how the street values NVIDIA. When is the earnings? This is interesting, guys. November 20th. Estimated, because the official earnings haven't been released yet. But this one's tough because let's go back to Microsoft. Nov 20. The third Friday is the 15th. So right now, it looks like December options for NVIDIA, because the earnings are going to be in the December option cycle until they're estimated. So that's something you need to watch out for. I'm guessing the options are not fully pricing in NVIDIA for December because people probably think that NVIDIA can release in November. So I'm guessing November options are staying elevated. Let me see. November 53 here, 58 here. Let me see, 10%. So only 10% of movement, maybe 12% is factored in over 24 days. That's not going to be enough because they're pricing earnings into December. And here you'll see a 20% of expected move for the next 59 days. And that seems pretty appropriate. If we look at NVIDIA, more of like a 20% movement. So looking at all three of those, that's exactly how we value these different earnings. Oh, that's pretty. Nice fall day. The key takeaway, and I'll make sure I get my questions up. The key takeaway, guys, is when earnings season comes around, it's literally rinse and repeat. We want to go and we want to back test and see how much a name has moved in the past. And then we want to see, is that move priced into the options market effectively? I'm a big believer, guys. The creative trader wins. We want to look at the market different than everybody else. I'll see you live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Everybody else in All Access, you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.